The massive Zyraxian warship emerged from the swirling vortex of hyperspace, its crystalline hull gleaming against the backdrop of stars. Earth hung below, like a blue jewel in the darkness. The ship was one of 5 that had arrived in the solar system 3 days ago, positioning themselves in orbit around the planet. They had come without warning or introduction, their intentions unknown, inside the United Nations Emergency Council chamber. Kate Wilson stood before the assembled representatives, her hands steady despite her racing heart. As director of the newly formed Extraterrestrial Contact Division, she had spent years preparing for this moment, though nothing could truly prepare humanity for first contact. The screens around the chamber displayed the same message that had been broadcasting on every frequency since the ships arrived. We are the Zyraxian Collective. We come to assess your world, prepare representatives for evaluation. The council president, a stern woman from Nigeria, nodded to Kate. It is time, Dr. Wilson. Your team will make first contact with these beings. May whatever gods exist watch over you. Kate straightened her uniform and looked at her small team. Susan Chen, a brilliant linguist, Maria Rodriguez, a xenobiologist, and Laura Cooper, a diplomat with experience in the most tense human negotiations. They had been selected from thousands of candidates for this precise scenario. We are as ready as we can be. Kate said, her voice calm and measured. We have prepared response protocols and established a neutral meeting zone at the International Space Station. If their technology is as advanced as it appears, they should have no difficulty docking with our facility. The council chamber doors opened, and the Secretary General entered, accompanied by military advisors from several nations. General Hansen of the United States approached Kate, his expression grave. The combined military forces of Earth stand ready, Dr. Wilson. But I pray you succeed. We have analyzed their technology from what little we can observe. They could likely destroy our major cities before we could launch a meaningful defense. Kate nodded. We understand the stakes, General. But this is a diplomatic mission, not a military. One first contact must begin with an assumption of peaceful intent, or we risk creating the very conflict we fear. The general didn't look convinced but stepped back as the Secretary General addressed the room. We have voted and agreed, Dr. Wilson's team will represent Earth. They depart for the space station in 2 hours. Let us hope these visitors judge us worthy. The journey to the International Space Station was silent, each woman lost in her own thoughts. Kate reviewed the contact protocols. They had developed over years of theoretical planning protocols that now seemed painfully inadequate in the face of actual alien visitors. Once aboard the station, Commander Patel greeted them with a salute. We have prepared the observation deck, as requested, Doctor. The visitors have acknowledged our invitation and will be arriving within the hour. The observation deck had been cleared of unnecessary equipment, the large reinforced windows offering a breathtaking view of Earth below. A simple table with chairs arranged on both sides stood in the center of the room. Kate hoped the universal concepts of meeting and discussion would translate across species. Laura checked her tablet. The Zyraxians have dispatched a smaller vessel from their mothership. Estimated arrival in 20 minutes. Kate took a deep breath and addressed her team. Remember, we represent all of humanity in this moment. Not just our nations, not just our beliefs, but our entire species. Our goal is understanding, not confrontation. Susan adjusted the translator device they had hastily programmed with the limited data from the alien broadcasts. It might be primitive compared to their technology, but it was the best Earth could offer. The station trembled slightly as the Zyraxian shuttle docked. Kate watched through the internal cameras as the airlock cycled. The first glimpse of their visitors made her breath catch in her throat. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with elongated limbs and scaled skin that shimmered with patterns of light. Most striking were their eyes, large, multifaceted orbs that reflected the station lights like living gemstones. 3 of them entered, moving with fluid grace that suggested both strength and precision. Kate stepped forward as the aliens approached May. I welcome you to Earth. I am Kate Wilson, representative of the human species. We are honored by your presence and hope for peaceful exchange. The tallest of the aliens studied Kate with an unsettling stillness before responding in a musical voice that the translator rendered in a flat monotone. I am Commander Nixia of the Zeraxian Evaluation Fleet. We have studied your transmissions for many cycles. Your species presents an anomaly that requires assessment, Kate maintained, her diplomatic smile despite the ominous words. We are eager to learn about the Zeraxian collective and to share knowledge of our own civilization. Please join us. The aliens followed her to the table, moving with a synchronization that suggested either military precision or some form of shared consciousness. They seated themselves with careful movement, studying the humans with unblinking eyes. Commander Nixia spoke again. Our records indicate that intelligence evolves along predictable paths throughout the galaxy. Yet your species deviates in concerning ways. You lack uniform government. Your nations compete rather than cooperate. You deplete resources without regulation. You maintain primitive belief systems alongside advanced science. These contradictions require explanation. Kate felt a chill at the clinical assessment, but kept her voice even. We are a young species, still growing, still learning. Our diversity of thought and organization has challenges, but also provides. Our greatest strengths. Through competition comes innovation. Through different perspectives comes wisdom. The commander's skin flickered with patterns of light that the humans couldn't interpret. We have observed 1,427 developing worlds. Worlds that followed similar patterns to yours have a 78.3% probability of self-extinction within 2 standard millennia. The collective evaluates potential civilizations to determine if intervention is warranted. Maria, the xenobiologist, leaned forward. Intervention. What form would that take? Another alien whose translator identified as science director. Lix answered, integration or isolation depending on assessment. Those species with beneficial traits may join the collective with guidance. Those deemed hazardous to galactic stability are contained until they evolve beyond self-destructive tendencies. Kate felt a cold weight in her stomach. They were being judged not just for first contact, but for the future of humanity itself. The Zeraxians spoke of containment with the casual ease of those who had done it before. Commander, we understand your concerns, Kate said carefully. But to truly understand humanity, you must experience our civilization, not just observe it from orbit. We invite you to visit Earth to see our cultures, our achievements, and yes, our struggles. We do not claim perfection, but we believe our potential is worth knowing. The Zeraxians conferred among themselves, their skin, patterns flashing in complex sequences. Finally, Commander Nixia turned back to Kate. Your proposal has merit. Evaluation from proximity will provide more accurate data. We will select sites for visitation. Your council will be notified of our choices. Within 1 planetary rotation, as the meeting concluded, Kate felt both relief and apprehension. The Zeraxians had threatened immediate containment, but their clinical assessment of humanity was far from encouraging. As she watched them return to their shuttle, she wondered what criteria they used for their evaluations and whether Earth had any chance of meeting them. Back at the United Nations, Kate delivered her report. The Zeraxians are clearly an advanced civilization with technology far beyond our own. But they view us as a research subject, not as equals. They intend to evaluate us for potential integration into their collective or for what they call containment. I believe we have limited time to demonstrate humanity's value. The Secretary General looked troubled. They speak of containing an entire planet. How would such a thing even be possible? Kate shook her head. Their technology is beyond our understanding, but the implication was clear. Worlds that fail their assessment are somehow restricted, perhaps quarantined from the rest of the galaxy. General Hansen slammed his fist on the table. This is precisely why we should be preparing our defenses, not rolling out. The welcome mat. Kate turned to him with a steady gaze. And what would you suggest, General? That we attack visitors who could have destroyed us without warning but chose to communicate instead? If they wanted conquest, they would have simply taken Earth. They want something else. Understanding, perhaps, or some resource we haven't identified. The diplomatic approach remains our best hope. The next morning, Kate received the Zeraxian visitation requests. 7 locations had been selected spanning different continents and cultures. Kate studied the list with growing concern. The aliens had chosen sites that highlighted human contradictions: a refugee camp in East Africa, a gleaming technological campus in California, ancient ruins in Peru, a polluted industrial zone in Eastern Europe, a crowded megacity in Asia, a melting glacier in Antarctica, and a war zone in the Middle East. Kate presented the list to the Emergency Council. These selections suggest they are looking at our challenges as much as our achievements. They want to see humanity at its worst, not just its best. Susan, the linguist, nodded. Their language patterns suggest a clinical, or detachment. Their species seems to value order and consistency above all else. Our messy human contradictions may be precisely what concerns them. The Secretary General authorized the visits with diplomatic escorts for each location Kate would accompany. Commander Nixia to the technology campus in California, while her team members would guide the other Xeraxians to their chosen sites. The Xeraxian shuttle descended through cloudy skies toward the sprawling campus of the Global Innovation Center. Kate's heart pounded as she sat across from Commander Nixia, watching those alien eyes study the landscape below. "You build impressive structures," Kate offered, breaking the uncomfortable silence. The commander's skin flickered with patterns of blue, and green structures are mere tools. Civilization is measured by harmony and purpose. Your species builds without unified vision. Some construct, while others destroy. This suggests fundamental instability. Kate chose her words carefully. "We believe in freedom of choice. Commander, individual humans make individual decisions. This creates variety, experimentation, growth. Sometimes conflict results, but also innovation. The technology you'll see today came from competing ideas, not a single plan." Shuttle landed on a designated pad, where Nancy Rivera, the center's director, waited with a small welcoming committee. Commander Nixia towered over the humans as they walked through laboratories and research facilities. The alien showed particular interest in medical technology and environmental remediation systems. "Your species focuses significant resources on repairing damage to yourselves and your environment," Nixia observed. "Would it not be more efficient to prevent such damage initially?" Nancy nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely, and many of our newest projects focus on prevention, but we must also address existing problems. Our history hasn't always been guided by the knowledge we now possess." They entered a large circular chamber where researchers demonstrated an atmospheric carbon capture system that converted greenhouse gases into useful materials. Commander Nixia studied the process, her skin patterns shifting to deep purple. "You attempt to reverse planetary damage your own species caused." The commander stated, "This contradiction defines humanity. You create problems, then expend resources. Solving them." Kate felt a flash of defensiveness, but kept her tone measured. "We learn from our mistakes, Commander. Each generation builds on the knowledge of those before. Sometimes we must correct course, but we always move forward." The demonstration continued with presentations on renewable energy, clean water systems, and sustainable agriculture. The commander observed in silence occasionally, asking technical questions that revealed a deep understanding of sciences humans were only beginning to master as they moved between buildings. Commander Nixia stopped abruptly, pointing to a small garden where wildflowers grew in seemingly random patterns amid carefully arranged paths. "What purpose does this serve?" "It appears chaotic and unplanned." Kate smiled. "This is both art and science, Commander. We call it a permaculture garden. It mimics natural ecosystems while producing food, medicine, and beauty. The apparent chaos actually creates resilience. Each plant supports the others in ways a uniform planting wouldn't." The alien studied the garden for a long moment, then turned to Kate. "You value this disorder?" "Not disorder," Commander Kate corrected. "Gently complexity. Natural systems aren't random, they're intricate. Each element connects to others in ways we are still discovering. Human creativity often thrives in similar complexity." The tour concluded with a presentation on quantum computing technology, where humans had made surprising advances. Commander Nixia watched the demonstration with increased attention, her skin patterns shifting rapidly. "Your computational approach is unconventional," the commander noted after the presentation. Xeraxian systems. Follow standard galactic protocols. Your methods appear inefficient yet achieve unexpected results. The lead researcher smiled. That inefficiency, as you call it, comes from our willingness to try approaches others might dismiss. Some fail, but occasionally. We discover something revolutionary by accident. As they returned to the shuttle, Kate noticed Commander Nixia studying a group of children visiting the center. The young humans ran laughing between exhibits, pointing excitedly at demonstrations while their teachers attempted to maintain order. Your offspring appear undisciplined, the commander observed. Kate watched the children with affection. They are learning through exploration. Commander, freedom to question, to touch, to experiment, is how humans develop creativity. The most brilliant scientists often began as curious children who asked why and how. The commander's skin rippled with patterns Kate couldn't interpret. Our juveniles follow structured development paths. Deviation is corrected. Efficiency is prioritized. That evening, Kate met with her team via secure video conference to share observations. Maria had visited the melting glacier with Science Director Lix. The Xeraxian had taken extensive readings and asked pointed questions about human responsibility for climate change. They seem particularly troubled by our environmental impact, Maria reported. The science director called our approach to planetary management dangerously chaotic. Laura, who had accompanied a Xeraxian official to the refugee camp, looked exhausted. What struck me was their confusion about why we allow such suffering. They repeatedly asked why stronger nations don't simply absorb displaced populations. Their concept of civilization seems to require complete unification. Susan nodded after returning from the ancient ruins. The cultural officer was fascinated by our historical records, but disturbed by how often civilizations rise and fall. They see it as evidence of fundamental instability, not as the natural cycle we consider it. Kate summarized her own observations. They value order, efficiency, and stability above all. Their society appears to be based on unified purpose rather than individual choice. The very aspects of humanity we cherish most, our diversity, our creativity, our freedom to choose different paths, these may be what they find most concerning. General Hansen, who had been monitoring the conversations, broke in. So we're being judged inadequate by aliens who can't comprehend freedom. Wonderful. Kate shook her head. It's not that simple. General, they aren't malevolent. They genuinely seem to believe their approach to civilization is superior, perhaps even benevolent. Their containment policy may be what they consider humanitarian protection, preventing species from destroying themselves. The next morning, all Xeraxian observers returned to their mothership. The humans waited anxiously for their assessment. Hours passed in tense silence. Finally, a message arrived. The collective has completed preliminary evaluation. Secondary assessment protocol is authorized. Observer Nixia will continue evaluation with human representative Kate Wilson aboard collective vessel for 1 planetary cycle. Prepare for transport within 6 hours. Kate stared at the message. In disbelief, they were taking her to their ship, possibly beyond Earth entirely. The Secretary General called an emergency meeting where voices of protest were raised. We cannot allow them to simply take one of our people. General Hansen argued forcefully. It's a clear violation of sovereignty and possibly a prelude to hostage-taking. Kate remained calm. This is actually progress, General. They could have simply delivered their judgment. Instead, their continuing assessment. It suggests they're uncertain, that we may have shown them something that doesn't fit their usual evaluation patterns. Laura, the diplomat, agreed with Kate. The language indicates a standard protocol, not a hostile action. Refusing could trigger exactly the negative assessment we're trying to avoid. After hours of debate, the council approved the visit with conditions. Kate would maintain hourly communication and would be accompanied by Susan the linguist for additional support. The Xeraxians agreed to these terms. As Kate packed a small bag for the journey, she felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. The future of humanity might depend on what these aliens saw in them, whether the messiness and contradiction of human existence could be recognized as strength rather than weakness. Susan entered Kate's quarters with her own bag slung over her shoulder. Ready for the most important diplomatic mission in human history, Kate managed a smile. Just another day representing the entire human race on a spaceship, full of aliens who might decide to quarantine our planet. Susan laughed, her tension breaking momentarily. At least the translator is working well enough to communicate. I just hope we can help them understand that our differences are valuable, not dangerous. Kate nodded. That our contradictions, our struggles, our very humanity is worth preserving as they prepared to board the shuttle. Kate looked out at the blue curve of Earth below, thinking of all the billions of lives depending on this mission. She straightened her shoulders and took a deep breath. Whatever assessment awaited humanity on that alien vessel she would face. The Xeraxian shuttle ascended through Earth's atmosphere, its crystal hull shimmering as it transitioned from air to space. Kate and Susan sat in ergonomic seats that adjusted to their human forms, a small courtesy that gave Kate hope for meaningful communication. Commander Nixia stood at the control panel, her tall form graceful even in the confined space of the shuttle. Kate studied the alien, noting how light patterns rippled across her scaled skin in what must be their species' natural communication. She wondered how much was lost in translation even with their advanced technology. The shuttle approached the mothership, revealing its true scale. The vessel was massive, at least a mile long, with a structure resembling a crystalline snowflake, geometric and perfect. Unlike human vessels with their utilitarian designs, the Xeraxian ship seemed to be as much art as technology. We approached the collective vessel. Harmony of thought. Commander Nixia announced, "This ship serves as an evaluation center for species assessment. You are the first humans to witness our civilization directly. Your observations will be recorded as part of our assessment." The shuttle docked seamlessly with the larger vessel. Kate and Susan followed. Commander Nixia through corridors of shimmering material that seemed to respond to the presence of the Xeraxians, glowing softly as they passed. Other aliens moved purposefully through the ship, their skin patterns changing as they communicated silently with each other. Some stopped to observe the humans, their faceted eyes reflecting curiosity or perhaps concern. This vessel houses 3,422 collective members, Commander Nixia explained. Our mission extends beyond your world. We are one of many evaluation fleets assessing developing civilizations throughout this sector of the galaxy. Susan leaned closer to Kate, whispering, "They speak of evaluation fleets, plural. How many worlds are they judging?" Simultaneously, Kate kept her expression neutral. Though her mind raced with the implications, they were part of something much larger than they had initially understood. Commander Nixia led them to a large circular chamber, where several Xeraxians waited around a central platform. Your first observation will be of collective civilization. The commander stated, "You have witnessed our technology. Now you will witness our society." The platform illuminated with a three-dimensional projection of a planet. Unlike Earth with its blue oceans and white clouds, this world gleamed with geometric patterns visible even from space cities and infrastructure, forming perfect mathematical arrangements. "This is Xyrax's prime world of the collective commander," Nixia said with what sounded like pride. 1,800,000,000 citizens living in complete harmony, all needs met, all purposes aligned, no conflict, no waste, no disorder. The image zoomed to show cities of crystalline light. Xeraxians moved through these spaces in coordinated patterns that reminded Kate of a dance or perhaps the movement of cells within an organism. There was beauty in the precision, but also something unsettling in the uniformity. "Your civilization is impressive," Kate acknowledged. "How long did it take to achieve such harmony?" Commander Nixia's skin flickered with blue patterns that the translator did not interpret. 7,000 years since unification. Before that, our history, like yours, was marked by conflict and inefficiency. The awakening changed everything. We recognize the mathematical perfection possible when individuals align with collective purpose. Another Xeraxian stepped forward, identified by the translator as Elder Vix. Her scales showed patterns of deep purple and gold suggesting age or authority. In their society, harmony did not come easily human. It required biological and social evolution. Some freedom was exchanged for security, some individuality sacrificed for stability. The results justify the transition. Susan spoke carefully and human. History attempts to enforce complete uniformity have resulted in suffering and ultimately failure. We value diversity of thought and culture. Elder Vix studied Susan with unblinking eyes. We have observed this human attachment to chaos. What you call diversity we recognize as inefficiency. Your species celebrates contradiction. Your art glorifies suffering. Your governance, systems, waste resources on disagreement. These are symptoms of evolutionary immaturity. Kate felt a flash of defensiveness, but kept her tone diplomatic. Our differences generate innovation, Elder Vix. When all think alike, progress slows. Competition drives advancement. Challenges create resilience. These are strengths, not weaknesses. The elder's skin patterns intensified. A predictable response. Your species consistently confuses struggle with strength. We will continue observations. Over the next several hours, Kate and Susan were shown various aspects of Xeraxian civilization. Their medical technology had eliminated disease. Their resource management systems operated with perfect efficiency. Their education process programmed each citizen for optimal function within society. The humans were permitted to ask questions, but Kate noticed that certain inquiries were deflected, particularly those about individual choice or dissent. Within the collective, such concepts appeared to be literally untranslatable. During a meal break, Kate and Susan were given private quarters to rest and consume nutrient solutions formulated. For human biology, Kate activated her secure communicator contacting Earth General Hansen. Appeared on the small screen, Dr. Wilson report status were safe. Kate assured him, observing proper protocols. Their civilization is unlike anything we've imagined. Technologically, they're centuries beyond us, but socially, they appear to function as a true hive mind. Individual identity seems minimal at best. The Secretary General joined the call. Their assessment of us continues. Then, yes. Kate confirmed. They seem particularly focused on our diversity and individuality concepts they view as evolutionary flaws. I believe they genuinely cannot comprehend how a fractured species like ours could be viable long-term. What are our options? The Secretary General asked Kate, considered carefully. They respect order and efficiency. If we can demonstrate how our diversity creates resilience rather than weakness, we might sway their assessment. But I suspect their criteria for civilization are so fundamentally different from our values that compromise may be impossible. Susan joined the conversation after examining their quarters. Their technology is embedded in everything here. The walls themselves seem responsive to their bioelectrical signals. It's as though the ship is an extension of their collective consciousness. I suspect we're being monitored even now. The call ended with instructions to continue diplomatic engagement, while a planetary defense strategy was developed on Earth, though all acknowledged that resistance against such advanced technology would likely be futile. Commander Nixia returned to escort them to the next observation. The humans followed through corridors that seemed to shift and change as if the ship itself was alive. We will now observe juvenile development, the commander announced. This may help you understand the foundation of harmony. They entered a large chamber where young Xeraxians moved in synchronized patterns, their scales less vibrant than the adults, but still, showing complex light communications. Adult supervisors stood at intervals around the chamber, occasionally touching a juvenile to correct its movements. Our offspring begin collective integration from emergence, Commander Nixia explained. Individual aberrations are identified and recalibrated. The transition phase lasts approximately 20 of your years. Kate watched the young aliens. Their movements seemed perfect yet somehow mechanical. There was none of the laughter or spontaneity of human. Children no play or exploration, only disciplined learning. Do they ever just play? She asked before considering how the question might be perceived. Commander Nixia tilted her head. Play. This concept appears frequently in your species' development pattern. Purposeless activity for temporary neurological stimulation. Not purposeless, Kate corrected gently. Play is how human children develop creativity, problem-solving social bonds. Through unstructured activity, they learn to innovate to imagine possibilities. Beyond what exists, the commander observed the juvenile Xeraxians. Such inefficiency would create dangerous variation. Collective harmony requires standardized development. As they continued their tour, Susan whispered to Kate, "Have you noticed there's no art, no music, no literature? At least none they've shown us." Kate nodded. "I've been watching for it. Maybe creativity, as we understand it, isn't valued here." Their observations continued for hours. The humans were shown food production, energy generation, governance systems all operating with remarkable efficiency but also with rigid conformity. Kate noticed that while technological advancement was evident throughout the ship, there seemed to be no cultural evolution. The Xeraxian way appeared unchanging, perfect and static. During a final observation session, Elder Vix approached the humans. "Our preliminary assessment nears completion. You have witnessed the collective way you have demonstrated human perspective. We will now show you the purpose of evaluation." The projection platform activated, showing a distant planet. Unlike the geometric perfection of Xyrax, this world showed chaotic development patterns and signs of environmental degradation. Species designation, Thulari. Elder Vix explained. Evaluation completed 300 years ago. Assessment negative containment protocol implemented. Kate felt a chill. Containment? What exactly does that entail? The elder gestured and the image zoomed closer. An energy field surrounded the planet, subtle, but visible in certain wavelengths. The Thulari demonstrated aggression, expansion tendencies, and resource depletion behaviors similar to humanity. Kate paced their quarters while Susan analyzed the translation data they had collected. The two women had been left alone, presumably to rest before the final assessment phase, but sleep was impossible with the future of humanity hanging in the balance. "We need to change their criteria," Kate said, stopping by the viewing port that showed Earth as a distant blue dot. "Their entire evaluation is based on a definition of civilization that fundamentally conflicts with human values." Susan looked up from her tablet. "Their language doesn't even have words for concepts we consider essential. Freedom, creativity, individuality. Their mathematical perspective sees these as computational errors. Not features." Kate sat across from Susan, her mind racing. "The Xeraxians aren't malevolent. They genuinely believe they're protecting the galaxy, including us, from what they see as dangerous chaos. But they can't comprehend that our messy human nature, our contradictions and struggles, are the source of our strength." An idea began to form in Kate's mind. Remember how interested Commander Nixia was in the permaculture garden? That moment of confusion when she couldn't understand why we would value apparent disorder. Susan nodded. She asked several questions about it. The translator had trouble with some of the concepts. Kate leaned forward. "I think that's our opening. They respect mathematical patterns, but they only recognize simple patterns. The garden represents complex adaptive systems, mathematics, that humans have only recently begun to understand. Chaos theory, emergence complexity science. These describe patterns within apparent disorder, patterns that lead to resilience and evolution. Before they could develop this idea further, Commander Nixia entered the chamber. The final assessment phase will begin. We have reviewed your planet's history, capabilities, and potential. The Evaluation Council awaits your testimony." Kate straightened her uniform and exchanged a determined glance with Susan. This was humanity's moment to defend its right to exist on its own terms. The council chamber was a vast space with 7 elder Xeraxians positioned on elevated platforms. Their scales showed patterns more complex than any the humans had seen, suggesting their senior status within the collective. Kate and Susan stood on a central platform, facing the imposing figures. Elder Vix addressed them. "Species representatives, you have witnessed the collective way you understand the purpose of evaluation. You will now present final testimony regarding humanity." Before the assessment is finalized, Kate stepped forward, feeling the weight of billions of lives resting on her words. "I thank the Evaluation Council for this opportunity. Humanity recognizes the advanced nature of Xeraxian civilization and appreciates the chance to learn from your achievements. I would like to present a perspective on human civilization that may not be evident from your observations. The elders' skin patterns rippled in, what Kate had come to recognize as the Xeraxian equivalent of acknowledgement, what you perceive as disorder in human civilization. Kate continued, is actually a different form of order, a complex adaptive system, rather than centralized control. Our strength comes from distributed networks of independent actors creating resilience through diversity. To demonstrate, I would like to show you human mathematics that describes this principle. Kate nodded to Susan, who activated a presentation they had prepared during their brief privacy. The display showed fractal cellular automata and emergence patterns, mathematical representations of complex systems. The human understanding of mathematics is surprisingly advanced. Elder Vix noted. These patterns, Kate explained, are found throughout nature and human systems. Our forests, ecosystems, economies, and social structures all demonstrate complex organization that appears chaotic at first glance, but contains deep mathematical order. The difference is that these systems don't require centralized control to maintain stability. They adapt through distributed decision-making. Another elder, whose translator identified as council member, Zix, spoke. Our assessment indicates this distributed approach leads to conflict inefficiency and potential self-extinction. Kate nodded. I acknowledge the risks, council member. But consider this paradox. This apparent inefficiency creates long-term resilience. When environments change, systems with centralized control often collapse while complex adaptive systems evolve and survive. The history of life on Earth demonstrates this principle repeatedly. Kate gestured to images of Earth's biodiversity. 99% of species that have ever lived on our planet are extinct. Yet life continues to flourish. Why? Because the system itself is resilient even when individual components fail. Human civilization follows this same pattern. Our nations rise and fall. Our ideologies evolve, our approaches change, but humanity continues advancing despite setbacks. Susan stepped forward, supporting Kate's argument. Our linguistic analysis shows that Xeraxian language prioritizes concepts of unity, efficiency, and control, while human languages contain rich vocabulary for adaptation, innovation, and transformation. These different perspectives lead to different definitions of civilization. The council members communicated among themselves in rapid patterns of light that the translator couldn't process. Finally, Elder Vix addressed the humans. Your argument has mathematical validity. However, our historical data suggests that species following distributed development paths have an unacceptable probability of developing destructive technologies before achieving sufficient wisdom. Kate recognized the opening. This is precisely why communication between our civilizations is so valuable. The collective has achieved remarkable stability. Humanity has developed extraordinary adaptability. Together we could learn from each other. Containment would prevent this exchange of strengths. Elder Vix's patterns intensified. You propose an alternative to standard protocols? Yes, Kate said firmly. I propose that instead of containment or forced integration, the collective. Consider a third option: limited technological exchange and cultural observation. A probationary period during which humanity demonstrates our capacity for responsible advancement. Council member Zix responded. Such an arrangement has no precedent. The containment protocol exists to protect developing species from themselves as much as to protect others. Kate stood her ground respectfully. With respect, council member, unprecedented situations may require unprecedented solutions. The fact that we are having this conversation, that you have allowed us to present alternative perspectives, suggests the collective values adaptation when evidence warrants it. The council chamber's lights dimmed as the elders entered what appeared to be deep communication. Their skin patterns synchronized in complex flowing sequences. Kate and Susan waited, tension growing with each passing moment. The future of Earth hanging in the silence. After what seemed like hours, the lights returned to normal and Elder Vix addressed them. The council has deliberated. The testimony has introduced variables not previously considered in standard evaluation protocols. Mathematical models suggest in 71.4% probability that human distributed systems will result in catastrophic outcomes. However, the potential value of cultural exchange presents an undefined variable. Kate held her breath, sensing a decision approaching. The collective will implement a modified protocol, Elder Vix announced. Earth will not be contained. However, technological development will be monitored. Certain advancement paths will require collective approval. A Xeraxian observation post will remain in your solar system. Human representatives will be permitted limited access to collective knowledge exchange. This arrangement will be evaluated continuously. Relief washed over Kate. It wasn't perfect, but Earth would remain free. Humanity would continue on its own path with the chance to prove their civilization worthy of trust. The containment field would not be raised around their world as they prepared to return to Earth. Kate and Susan were approached by Commander Nixia. The commander studied them with what Kate had learned to recognize as curiosity. Your defense of human disorder was unexpected, the commander said. The mathematical patterns you presented merit further study. I have volunteered to serve as liaison at the observation post. Kate smiled, finding she had developed a genuine respect for the alien. Commander, despite their differences, we welcome the opportunity to learn from each other. Commander, perhaps you might even discover value in some of our human chaos. The commander's skin flickered with patterns that for the first time the translator interpreted as amusement disorder as advantage, a paradox worthy of investigation. The return journey to Earth was filled with urgent communications, planning for humanity's new relationship with the collective. Kate knew the challenges ahead would be enormous, explaining the situation to Earth's nations, navigating the restrictions on technology, preventing conflicts over access to alien knowledge. Susan sat beside her as the shuttle approached Earth. Our world looks different now, doesn't it? Smaller. Somehow Kate nodded. We're not alone anymore, and we never will be again. Whatever comes next, humanity will face it together as we always have. Adapting, learning, growing from our challenges. Below them, Earth turned its patchwork of nations, oceans, and wilderness representing the beautiful complexity of their home. The very messiness that had nearly resulted in their containment might now become their greatest asset in the galactic community. Commander Nixia joined them at the viewport, observing, Earth, your world contains contradictions that challenge collective understanding. Kate smiled. That, Commander, is perhaps the most human thing you've said yet. 1 year after first contact, the Xeraxian observation post orbited Earth, a crystalline structure that had become a familiar sight in the night sky. Kate stood at the window of her office at the newly established Interspecies Exchange Center, watching shuttles arrive and depart. The center housed researchers, diplomats, and cultural specialists from both worlds working to bridge the vast differences between their civilizations. Commander Nixia, now officially the collective ambassador to Earth, entered the office, her tall form no longer seeming as alien to Kate after months of close collaboration. The monthly assessment report is complete, Ambassador. The commander still used Kate's title rather than her name. Xeraxian culture remained formal despite increasing exposure to human customs. Kate accepted the tablet, studying the data. Human progress exceeds previous models, Ambassador Nixia. Our nations are cooperating on climate restoration technology, renewable energy systems, and disease prevention. The knowledge exchange is working. The commander's skin flickered with patterns Kate had learned to recognize as cautious agreement. Technological integration proceeds efficiently. However, cultural exchange creates persistent variables. Collective members assigned to Earth exhibit concerning pattern deviations after prolonged human contact. Kate suppressed a smile, knowing exactly what the commander meant. Several Xeraxian scientists had begun showing interest in human art, music, and literature. Some had even started creating their own artistic expressions, something unprecedented in their strictly utilitarian culture. These cultural explorations seem to be mutual benefit, Kate said carefully. Human scientists are learning mathematical precision and efficiency, while Xeraxian observers gain appreciation for creative thinking. This balanced exchange was the foundation of our agreement, Ambassador. Nixia studied Kate with those multifaceted eyes. The Evaluation Council has noted these developments with concern. 37. Collective members have requested extended Earth assignments. This suggests anomalous influence. Before Kate could respond, Susan entered carrying research results. The linguistic project is showing remarkable progress. Ambassador Wilson, she announced. The adaptive translation matrix now interprets emotional context with 83% accuracy. We can finally understand the nuances in Xeraxian communication patterns. Kate noticed Commander Nixia's skin displaying patterns of what she now recognized as discomfort. The revelation that humans could begin to read their emotional states through skin patterns seemed to disturb the normally composed alien. Is something wrong? Commander Kate asked. The ambassador turned toward the window. The council did not anticipate how quickly humans would adapt to collective knowledge, nor how collective members would adapt to human influences. Both progressions exceed standard models. Susan placed her research on Kate's desk. We have visitors from the Technology Exchange arriving in an hour. The Quantum Communication Project is ready for Phase 2 testing. After Susan left, Kate approached Commander Nixia, sensing the alien's concern. Commander, after a year of working together, believe we can speak frankly. The collective is worried about more than technology transfer, isn't it? The commander was silent for a moment, her skin patterns shifting through complex sequences. The collective functions through unity of purpose. Ambassador, Wilson exposure to human diversity creates pattern disruptions. Young collective members, particularly those in scientific exchange programs, show concerning traits, curiosity beyond assigned parameters, individual preferences, questioning of established protocols. Kate chose her words carefully. Evolution requires variation. Commander, even in the most perfect system, adaptation depends on new patterns emerging. This isn't corruption, it's growth. The commander turned to face her. The collective has maintained stability for 7,000 years through pattern consistency. Human influence threatens this consistency. Kate realized they had reached a critical moment in the relationship between their species. The very success of their cultural exchange had created unexpected consequences. The Xeraxian concern wasn't just about humanity being influenced by advanced technology, but about their own society being changed by human ideas. Later that day, Kate met with the Human Leadership Council in a secure conference room. General Hansen, who had initially argued for military preparation against the aliens, now served as security coordinator for the exchange program. The general reviewed the latest intelligence. The observation post has increased communication with the Xeraxian fleet at the edge of our solar system. Something has the collective concerned. Maria Rodriguez, who had been studying Xeraxian biology, nodded. I've noticed behavioral changes in the scientific teams. Their natural communication patterns show increasing variation. Individual Xeraxians are developing distinct communication styles. This may seem minor to us, but in their culture, it's revolutionary. Kate shared her conversation with Commander Nixia. The collective fears contamination not of technology, but of ideas. Their society depends on absolute conformity. Our chaotic human ways are having an unexpected effect on their younger members, Laura Cooper. The diplomat raised an eyebrow. So after worrying that they would change us, we're changing them instead. The irony is remarkable. The Secretary General looked troubled. If the collective feels threatened by this cultural exchange, they might revoke our probationary status. The containment protocol remains. A risk. Kate shook her head. I don't believe that's likely. The exchange benefits them too. The Xeraxians value efficiency above all, and our collaborative projects have produced results that neither species could achieve alone. The shared research on quantum field manipulation has advanced their understanding as much as ours. We need to address their concerns directly. Kate continued, show them that cultural exchange strengthens both societies, that adaptation and growth don't threaten stability, but ensure long-term resilience. The following week, a delegation from the Evaluation Council arrived at the observation post. Kate prepared carefully for this critical meeting. The council rarely left the collective fleet, their presence indicating the seriousness with which they viewed the situation. The council chamber aboard the observation post mimicked the one Kate had seen on the mothership Elder Vix, and 6 other senior Xeraxians arranged on elevated platforms studied the human delegation with unreadable expressions. Ambassador Wilson Elder Vix began. The probationary exchange has produced unexpected outcomes. The integrity of collective members assigned to Earth shows concerning pattern disruption. The Council must consider modification to exchange protocols. Kate stepped forward, respecting Xeraxian formalities. I understand your concerns, Elder Vix, but I believe these outcomes demonstrate success, not failure. The exchange was established to promote mutual understanding and growth. She activated a display showing the collaborative achievements of the past year. Joint projects had advanced environmental restoration, medical science and clean energy technologies. Xeraxian efficiency combined with human creativity had solved problems both species had struggled with individually. These achievements Elder Vix acknowledged have value. However, the impact on collective harmony creates unacceptable variables. 43% of Xeraxians with Earth exposure now display individualized communication patterns. 12% have requested permission for non-essential creative activities. These deviations threaten collective stability. Kate took a calculated risk. The Xeraxians valued mathematical truth above all. Perhaps this was the key to reaching them. Elder Vix, I would like to present a mathematical model that may provide perspective. She nodded to Susan, who activated a complex simulation. The display showed evolutionary algorithms demonstrating how systems with moderate variation outperformed perfectly uniform systems when facing changing conditions. This model demonstrates a principle humans have observed throughout nature. Kate explained systems with appropriate levels of variation achieve greater long-term stability than systems with perfect uniformity when environments change. The variation you observe in Xeraxians exposed to human culture isn't random corruption. It's the natural emergence of adaptive capacity. Elder Vix studied the simulation with intense focus. The mathematics appear valid. However, the collective has achieved stability through unity. The introduction of variation risks disruption. Kate nodded. With respect. Elder, the universe itself is not static. Galaxies evolve, stars die, new worlds form. The collective has achieved remarkable stability, but perfect stasis in an evolving cosmos may ultimately create fragility, not strength. A younger council member identified as Lick spoke. The human presents a testable hypothesis. Collective evolutionary theory acknowledges the requirement for minimal adaptation within controlled parameters. Elder Vix's skin patterns shifted rapidly as the council communicated in their private fashion. Finally, the elder addressed Kate. The council acknowledges the mathematical validity of your argument, Ambassador Wilson. However, the rate of variation among Earth-assigned collective members exceeds safe parameters. Kate recognized both the concession and the continued concern. I propose a modification to our exchange protocols. Elder, fix structured cultural integration with careful monitoring. Xeraxians who show interest in human creative expression would be guided through controlled exposure. Human participants would similarly receive structured introduction to collective efficiency principles.